Good day, Africa and the world. Thank you immensely for joining us on yet another rendezvous for the news over For You Television Africa. Today with this news, we'll now take you to the Central African country of the Central African Republic, where the Circle of Reflection movement have demanded for the amendment of the Constitution of March 30, 2016. The Circle of Reflection movement for a Republican CRU organized on the morning of October 22nd, 2022, a citizens march in the city of Bangui and some provinces across the Central African country. At the end of the march to the PKO, that the coordinator, Mr. Hippolyte Ngati, addressed the President of the Republic, His Excellency Professor Faustin Archange Touadéra, with a memorandum. The content of the memorandum thus requires the amendment of the Constitution of March 30, 2016 and the convocation of Central Africans by referendum. Ladies and gentlemen, we now take you to the western part of the African continent, where we shall be stopping in Guinea-Conakry, where of course at least 5 people were killed or were injured last week after security forces fired at anti-government protesters in Guinea's capital, Conakry. The demonstrations were pushing for the military government that took over power in September 2021 coup to restore power back to civilian rule. The rest of that story is in the following reports. It was a dark Thursday in Guinea's capital, Conakry, as over 5 people were injured after security forces fired at anti-government protesters, an opposition coalition said. Demonstrators pushing for the military government that took power in September 2021 go to restore civilian rule, set up roadblocks across the city and burnt tires. The National Front for the Defense of the Coalition, the FNDC, said in a statement 5 suffered gunshot wounds and 1 is in a critical condition, though the police is yet to make a statement. Sporadic protests have taken place in Guinea since the government was overthrown and replaced with military leaders that have dragged their feet on promises to hand power back to civilians. Co-leader and interim President Mamadi Doumbouya has proposed a 36-month transition to elections, which regional leaders and opposition politicians have rejected. Following the criticism of the 36-month timeline, the military regime banned all public demonstrations. Let's recall that at least 4 people were shot and several wounded during anti-government protests in July. A team of representatives from the Economic Community of West African States ECOWAS is currently in Guinea to discuss a more reasonable transition timeline after the bloc imposed economic and financial sanctions on the country. Ladies and gentlemen, we move away from Guinea-Conakry to talk about the Tigrayan crisis in the East African country of Ethiopia, where Ethiopian Eritrean forces took control of the historic town of Adwa in the embattled Tigrayan region, a humanitarian worker said on Sunday ahead of the start of the anticipated peace talks between the warring parties in the East African nation. The Ethiopian and Eritrean military forces captured Adwa Saturday as Tigrayan forces retreated from the town after suffering major losses, the aid worker told the press. An airstrike hit Adwa on Friday, causing an unspecified number of civilian casualties, according to the worker, who spoke on the condition of anonymity because of security causes. Ladies and gentlemen, we are still in Ethiopia, where the Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed thus had said war, of course, will end in the Tigrayan region and peace would prevail. He made these remarks last week during an inauguration of a talent development center in the regional state. The rest of the story is Richie Futso.
The situation in northern Ethiopia will come to an end. Peace will prevail. We will not continue fighting forever. I believe that in a short period of time, we will stand with our Tigrayan brothers for peace and development, Mr. Abiy said. He urged the Ethiopians to work together for the country's prosperity and not to be divided along ethnic and religious lines. On Thursday, the Ethiopian government accepted an invitation by the African Union to participate in a peace talks to be held on 24th October in South Africa to end the war that has killed an unspecified numbers of people and displaced millions. It came on the same day Tigrayan rebels accused Ethiopian and Eritrean forces of killing 7 youth in a town that was captured by the Federal Army on Tuesday, October 18, 2022.
Let's now take you back to the West African part of the African continent, where we are taking you to Burkina Faso. Just to reiterate that Captain Ibrahim Traoré, who took over power in the military coup on September 30, was thus, of course, sworn in on October 21st as the transitional president of the West African country. Of course, this inauguration or swearing-in was done by the Constitutional Council there in the West African nation. During his swearing-in, no foreign representative attended the ceremony. The rest of the story is with you, Fotso.
I swear before the people of Burkina Faso and on my honor to preserve, respect, enforce and defend the Constitution, the Transition Charter and the laws, to do everything possible to guarantee justice for all the inhabitants of Burkina Faso.
While taking note of the assets of the newly invested President Bourhaima Sissé, interim president of the Constitutional Council sent him back to the exercise of his function.
The Constitutional Council takes note of your oath and sends you back to the exercise of your functions, addressing the congratulations of the elders to Captain Traoré.
This is the second coup that the Constitutional Council invests in 8 months after the swearing-in of Lieutenant Colonel Paul Henry Sandaogo Damiba, who came to power in a coup at the end of January before being himself overthrown September 30. The existence of the nation is in danger, declared Ibrahim Traoré after his inauguration in reference to the recurrent jihadist attacks which undermine the country. We are facing an unprecedented security and humanitarian crisis. Our objectives are none other than the reconquest of the territory occupied by these orders of terrorists, he added. The hearing in question was held before representatives of the constituted bodies, the army, and the living forces of the country, and as a major fact, no foreign representative attended the said ceremony. It should be remembered that this investiture was provided for in the Transition Charter adopted last week by the National Assise, bringing together the living forces of the country, having unanimously designated Captain Traoré President of the Transition, Head of State, Supreme Commander of the National Armed Forces. Moreover, it is indicated according to Article 4 of this charter that, I quote, the mandate of the President of the Transition ends with the inauguration of the President for the presidential election scheduled for July 2024. On January 24, soldiers led by Lieutenant Colonel Damiba and regrouped within a military government called the Patriotic Movement for Safeguarding and Restoration, MPSR, overthrew President Roch-Marc Christian Kabore, criticized for not having bring peace. On September 30, 2022, a new coup brought Captain Traoré to power. At only 34, he thus becomes the youngest head of state in Africa, joining the ranks of 2 other perpetrators of coups, Mamadi Doumbouya of Guinea and Assimi Goïta from Mali.
Thank you, Jay Fotso, for the report. Just to recapitulate, that Burkina Faso's new military leader, Ibrahim Traoré, was named jurist and author Apollinaire Joachim Kayem de Tembela as interim prime minister, a statement revealed over the weekend. Ladies and gentlemen, to wrap up this newscast, we now take you to talk Sudan in the northern part of the African continent, where witnesses in Sudan's Blue Nile region say more than 150 people have been killed this week in communal violence triggered by a land dispute in the North African country. Blue Nile Governor Ahmed Al-Badi declared a night curfew in Wet Al-Mahi locality Wednesday after a renewed communal fighting between the Hausa and the local Beti tribes. According to sources, the 3 days of clashes have killed more than 150 people who injured scores and others and displaced thousands in the country. Local activist Abdullah Ahmed Al-Feki says fighting continued for the third day, displacing families including women and children in the North African nation. It's with that flash, of course, on this newscast that we draw down the curtains of the newscast over 4U Television Africa. I have been Jake Nabase for presentation. Do have a great day in company of our programs.